Tonight on First at 9, this Wednesday the 9th of October 2024. Unanimous decision. UNHRC adopts resolution on promoting reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka without a vote.
Is adopted by the Council.
The second round. 33 political parties and independent groups submit nominations to contest the 2024 general election. Political alliance. 16 former SLPP members join Maim Janata party-led Sarvajana Balaya ahead of the general election. Positive outlook. Fitch rating signals possibility of moving Sri Lanka's rating out of restricted default following the completion of commercial debt restructuring.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
වැඩිම මනාපෙන් ජනතා තේරීම මෙවරත්.
සුදේශී ඔරිජිනල් කුහුඹම තමයි.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
This is Derana First at 9, live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. Now in your top story making headlines this evening, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a draft resolution on Sri Lanka without a vote. The new resolution 57/L1, sponsored by a group of countries including the United Kingdom and the United States of America, is themed promoting reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka. While expressing the Sri Lankan government's objection to the new resolution, Sri Lankan Permanent Representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Himali Arunatilaka, criticised the UNHRC for adopting country-specific resolutions. She also noted that the government is committed to protecting human rights and added that justice will be fulfilled to those affected by incidents that took place in the past, especially the Easter Sunday attacks. At the 46th meeting of the 57th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, which was held this evening, the Council debated on the new draft resolution A/HRC/57/L1 themed promoting reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka. The resolution was sponsored by the core group of countries including the United Kingdom, the United States of America, the Netherlands and Australia. Through the resolution, the core group proposes to the UN Human Rights Council the extension of the mandate of the Office of the High Commissioner and all work requested of it by the Human Rights Council in its resolution A/HRC/57/L1, which highlights the need to address the underlying causes of the economic crisis, including impunity for human rights violations and economic crimes. It also requests that the office present an oral update to the Council at its 58th session and a comprehensive report on progress in reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka at its 60th session to be discussed in an interactive dialogue.
During the course of this session, Sri Lanka has held peaceful, democratic presidential elections and it's announced parliamentary elections for next month. We stand ready to engage with the new government on making progress on the range of human rights challenges which have been identified by the Office of the High Commissioner. We call on the Council today to demonstrate its continued commitment to advancing reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka by adopting the draft resolution before us.
The EU congratulates Anura Kumara Dissanayake upon his election inauguration as President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. We look forward to working with President Dissanayake and continuing the EU support to Sri Lanka's reforms to bring the country to economic recovery, lasting reconciliation and inclusive prosperity and growth. Elections took place in a peaceful manner and in a competitive political environment. The challenges that lay ahead are manifold. They can only be addressed successfully by a united, reconciled country where all Sri Lankans, regardless of ethnicity, religion and belief or political affiliation, live together in peace and mutual respect, and where civil society has its place within the public discourse.
Cuba is opposed in principle to resolutions that do not have the support of the country concerned. We also oppose any action action or mandate that stems from them. We would reiterate that only constructive cooperation and respectful dialogue on the basis of the principles of the UN Charter can contribute to tackling national challenges in terms of the protection and effective promotion of human rights. Selective mechanisms should not be given priority over genuine dialogue with the Office of the High Commissioner on the terms of genuine cooperation and dialogue, and through universal mechanisms like the UPR, which has shown its effectiveness and usefulness for addressing human rights issues in all countries on an equal footing.
China will, as always, firmly support the efforts of Sri Lanka to maintain political stability, focus on economic construction, achieve national ownership and sustainable development, and create favorable conditions for its economic and social development and better living standard of the people. China is always opposed to country-specific human rights resolution without the consent of countries concerned, using human rights as a tool to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. Therefore, China will not participate in the consensus on draft resolution L1.
In line with the people's aspirations, the government will prioritize integrity and ethical governance, including issues of mismanagement and corruption that were the root of the economic collapse. The government will protect democracy and human rights of all citizens, including addressing past issues. Domestic mechanisms and processes that deal with reconciliation, accountability and justice will be credible and independent within the constitutional framework. As directed by the President, investigative authorities have already announced redoubling of investigation into a number of clearly identified accountability cases that were pending from the past. Justice will be delivered to the victims of the senseless Easter Sunday attacks. Sri Lanka has opposed HRC Resolution 51/1 and the preceding HRC Resolution 46/1, under which an external evidence gathering mechanism has been established within the OHCHR. For the above reasons, we reject the draft resolution tabled at the Council today, seeking to extend the mandate of Resolution 51/1.
With no country requesting a vote, the draft resolution A/HRC/57/L1 on promoting reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka was adopted without a vote.
And then I request again if there is any request for a vote on this resolution. I see none. Then resolution L1 is adopted by the Council. It is so decided.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now. චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙත් බලා පෙස්සිග TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
කාගෙත් ප්‍රියතම මෙලිබන් බිස්කට් දැන් 30ක් සීනි අඩුවෙන්. රස දන්න කාටත්
හරිෂෝ.
During a meeting today with President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, Vatican Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Reverend Dr. Brian Udaive, pledged the Vatican's support for the ongoing investigations into the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks. Later in the day, President Dissanayake also met with diplomats from 5 other countries. Discussions primarily focused on trade, tourism, renewable energy, truth and reconciliation, and employment migration. The Vatican has pledged its support to President Anura Kumara Dissanayake in the investigation into the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attack. This was communicated during a meeting held today between President Dissanayake and the Vatican Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Reverend Dr. Brian Udaive. During the meeting, the Vatican Ambassador also conveyed greetings from Pope Francis as well. President Dissanayake also met with the Korean ambassador to Sri Lanka, Myon Lee, today. The President's office indicated that discussions primarily focused on boosting employment opportunities for Sri Lankans in Korea. Eradicating poverty, combating corruption and addressing climate change were also among the topics discussed. Meanwhile, in another meeting today, the Swiss ambassador to Sri Lanka, Siri Wolt, pledged support for anti-corruption efforts in the country. The discussions also focused on boosting foreign direct investments, enhancing tourism, peace and reconciliation, and creating employment opportunities through labour migration between the two nations. German ambassador to Sri Lanka, Dr. Felix Neumann, who also met with President Dissanayake today, assured Germany's support for Sri Lanka in human resource development. He pledged support for improving technical education and enhancing government efficiency. In a post on the X platform, President Dissanayake expressed that Sri Lanka looks forward to exploring new trade and labour opportunities between the two nations. The President also met with the Thai ambassador to Sri Lanka today. The meeting focused on deepening bilateral ties through investment, trade and tourism. President Anurukumara Dissanayake stated that discussions also took place on promoting Sri Lanka's Buddhist heritage to Thai tourists. During a meeting with the Vietnamese ambassador Trinh Thi Tam today, President Dissanayake engaged in a discussion on Vietnam's success in foreign direct investment and explored methods to enhance investment promotion in Sri Lanka. The discussions also centered on strengthening cultural ties and boosting tourism between the two nations. The US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Stung, stated that the United States will support Sri Lanka's vision for achieving an export-oriented economy. During a meeting with the Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanatkumar Nayaka, Ambassador Chung also expressed US support for the initiatives of President Anurukumara Dissanayake aimed at preventing fraud and corruption. During the meeting held at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday, US Ambassador Julie Chung noted that the International Monetary Fund and the United States Agency for International Development are prepared to provide financial assistance to enhance Sri Lanka's economic prospects. The meeting was also attended by the USAID Deputy Director for Sri Lanka and the Maldives, along with economic expert Christopher Gooch. In a statement following the meeting, the President's office confirmed that the US has pledged both financial and technical support for President Disanayake's anti-corruption efforts. The US also reiterated its commitment to assisting Sri Lanka in achieving good governance and ensuring the country's security when needed. The statement further mentioned that Ambassador Chung expressed US support for programs focused on developing renewable energy, promoting an export-oriented agricultural industry, and alleviating rural poverty. Additionally, Ambassador Chung has noted that the current program providing school lunches for rural schools will be expanded to include urban schools in the future. Commander of the US Pacific Fleet, 4-star Admiral Steve Kohler, is set to visit Sri Lanka tomorrow. This will be the highest level US military visit to the country since 2021. Releasing a statement, the US Embassy in Sri Lanka said during the visit, Admiral Kohler will reaffirm the strong partnership between the United States and Sri Lanka for enduring, resilient, free and open Indo-Pacific. The US mission added that the Admiral will engage with senior Sri Lankan officials to discuss rising security concerns in the Indian Ocean region, strengthen collaboration on maritime domain awareness and disaster response, reaffirm US commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in combating transitional threats, and discuss the growing cooperation between US and Sri Lankan forces.
Sri Lanka decides 2024.
Candidates of several major political parties contesting this year's parliamentary election signed their nominations as the deadline for filing nominations looms on the 11th of October. The Election Commission noted that a total of 33 political parties and independent groups have submitted nominations to contest the 2024 general election. The election regulatory body also announced the participation of several international election observers to ensure the integrity of the upcoming general election scheduled for the 14th of November this year. Candidates of several major political parties contesting the 2024 general election signed their nomination papers today. Accordingly, the candidates of the National People's Power signed their nomination papers at the JVP headquarters in Palavatta.
අද දිනේ අපි සියලුම දිස්ත්‍රික්කවල නාම යෝජනා පත්‍ර අත්සන් කරනවා. ඒ වගේම හෙට සහ අනිද්දා දිනවල අපේ දිස්ත්‍රික්ක මට්ටමේදී අපේ සහෝදරවරු සහෝදරියෝ තමන්ගේ නාම යෝජනා පත්‍ර දිස්ත්‍රික් තේරීම් බාර නිලධාරීන්ට බාර දෙනවා.
නාම යෝජනා සකස් කරනකොට එක පක්ෂ වලින් ඊට මෙට පැනපු දූෂිත කිසි කෙනෙක් ගත්තේ නැහැ. එතවෙනුවෙන් ස්වේච්ඡාවෙන් කැපෙන්න පුළුවන්, ස්වේච්ඡාවෙන් වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඊටාම හොඳ කණ්ඩායමක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙනවා. හොඳම පිරිස අපෙන් එනවා.
මේ මැතිවරණදී ඔබතුමාගේ භූමිකාව මොකද්ද?
මේ මැතිවරණ දිනවන්න මම ජනතා විමුක්ති ලේකම් ලෙස මුළු පක්ෂ පාවිච්චි කරලා වැඩ කරනවා.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබතුමා අපිට නිකන් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව පැත්තේ
නෑ මම ඡන්දෙ ඉල්ලන්නේ මම දිගට කියලා තියෙන්නේ.
Meanwhile, the Samagijana Balavege-led alliance Samagijana Sandhane's candidates signed their nominations at the alliance's office in Colombo.
කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ දැවන්ත උත්සාහයක් ගන්නවා. මේ පාර මම ජනතාවට තමයි බාර දෙන්නේ මේ වැඩේ. හොඳේ? ජනතාව හිතන්න ඕනේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට හර්ෂ අරිනවද නැද්ද කියන එක. එහෙම නැත්තම් හර්ෂ සිල්ලාව දාන්න ඕනේ බක්කියට.
අභියෝගාත්මක මැතිවරණයක් බවට පත් වෙනවා. ඉතින් මම විශ්වාස කරනවා අපි සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ හැටියට දූෂණයට අක්‍රමිකතාවයකට චෝදනාවලට ලක් නොවිච්ච තරුණ උගත් පිරිසක් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි මේ සටන මේ අභියෝගය ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
The New Democratic Front, contesting under the symbol gas cylinder, also signed their nomination papers today at former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's election operations office on Flower Road, Colombo.
රැල්ල තියෙන්නේ මාලිමාවට. රැල්ලත් එක පුළුවන් දේ තරම් කරන්න.
රැල්ලට අහුවලා පාඩමක් ඉගෙන ගත්ත මේ රටේ පුරවැසියෝ.
I hope that a majority of people have learned their lesson by now. I believe that the people of this country will unite to form a powerful opposition in the country. This country requires a strong opposition that supports and criticizes the decisions of the government led by President Anura Kumara Disanayaka. Therefore, I believe that the people will make the right decision this time.
විපක්ෂයක් ශක්තිමත් විපක්ෂයක් තමයි අවශ්‍ය කරන්නේ.
මොකද අසං කරේ නැද්ද? නෑ අපි හෙට අසං කරනවා.
Similarly, candidates of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna also signed their nominations ahead of the parliamentary polls at the party's headquarters in Nelum Mawatha Battaramulla. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa also attended the occasion.
Those who contributed towards the creation of the SLPP also left the party. However, a group of educated and intelligent people joined us. Similarly, we have an opportunity for a new leadership. We are ready to move forward in this journey under the leadership of Nama Rajapaksa.
අපේ විධායක සභාවේ ඒ වගේම අපේ දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලය තීරණය කරේ මේ අවස්ථාවේදී නාම රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා එක දිස්ත්‍රික්කයකට කොටු කළ නොකිය යුතු බව එතුමට ලංකාවේම වක්කීම් එක්ක ඒ වක්කීම් ඉටු කරන්න පුළුවන් තැනකින් තමයි එතුමා මැතිවරණයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්නේ.
In the meantime, the People's Struggle Alliance, which is contesting this year's general election under the symbol umbrella, handed over the signed nomination papers for Colombo, Kalutara, Gampaha, Badulla, Matale and Ratnapura districts. Against this backdrop, the Election Commission announced that a total of 33 political parties and independent groups have submitted nominations to contest the 2024 general election. The acceptance of nominations for the general election will conclude at 12 noon on the 11th of October. Meanwhile, the deadline for accepting postal voting applications was extended until midnight tomorrow. In addition, the Election Commission announced that several international election observers have been invited to monitor the general election. Observers from the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, who observed the recent presidential election, along with the election observers from 8 other countries, including Russia, are expected to arrive in Sri Lanka. Moreover, the European Union Election Observation Mission has also requested permission from the Election Commission to monitor the upcoming general election. The Commonwealth Observer Group and the Asian Network for Free Elections are also scheduled to visit Sri Lanka to observe the election process. Leader of the Maim Janata Party, Dilith Jayavira, assured that the Sarva Jana Balaya will create a peer political environment for local government representatives whose reputations were tarnished due to the misconduct of the leaders of mainstream political parties. Addressing the media, Jayavira asserted that his alliance's mission of forming a strong opposition in Sri Lanka is receiving a positive response from the public. 16 former members of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, including former Deputy Chairman of the Mahara Pradesh Sabha, joined Sarva Jana Balaya today. All of them were appointed as electorate organisers of Sarva Jana Balaya in the Gampaha district by Maim Janata Party leader Dilith Jayavira. Meanwhile, another group of former Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna members, including former Chairman of Katuwana and Angunukola Palasa Pradesh Sabhas, also joined Sarva Jana Balaya today.
බීත විපක්ෂ නිර්මාණය කිරීම සඳහා අපි යන ගමන වඩ වඩාත් ජන ප්‍රසාදයට ලක් වී ඇති බව තහවුරු වෙමින් පවතිනවා.
With these new appointments, it is evident that our journey of forming a courageous opposition in the country is being admired by everyone. We aim to make a positive difference in the country's political culture. Due to corrupt leaders of political parties, the reputation of local politicians were tarnished. These people were publicly criticized as a result. However, we are here to rectify these mistakes and pay our gratitude to local politicians for their service. We will create a pure political environment for these politicians. We strongly believe that no member of our party are involved in the country's corrupt politics at the moment.
මේ දූෂිත දේශපාලනයට එක් නොවන බව සහ දූෂිත දේශපාලනයේ කොටස්කරුවන් නොවන බව.
In the meantime, the Madirigiriya and Minneriya electorate organisers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party also joined Sarvajana Balaya this afternoon and were appointed as Sarvajana Balaya's organisers of the same electorates. General Secretary of the Ceylon Workers' Congress, former Minister Jeevan Thondaman, announced that the Congress will contest the upcoming general election from the Nuwara district under the United National Party-led alliance of former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Taking to X, Thondaman confirmed that the Ceylon Workers' Congress will contest the election using the symbol elephant. This statement was made following the signing of nomination papers to contest the election.
Sri Lanka Decides 2024.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
කාගෙත් ප්‍රියතම මෙලිබන් බිස්කට් දැන් 30ක් සීනි අඩුවෙන්. රස දන්න කාටත්
හරිෂෝ.
දරුවන් ගැන ඒ තරම්ම හිතන නිසයි ලංකාවේ අම්මලා විශ්වාසයෙන් මෙලිබන් කිරිම දෙන්නේ.
Welcome back. Fitch Ratings has indicated that it may move Sri Lanka's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating out of restricted default once the country completes its commercial debt restructuring. In its latest report, Fitch Ratings stated that Sri Lankan authorities' confirmation of their commitment to the targets set under the country's IMF program, along with their intention to implement debt restructuring based on terms agreed with international sovereign bondholders in September, reduces the risks associated with the debt treatment process that arose following the recent presidential election.
The AWPR for the week ending 4th October 2024 decreased by 19 basis points to 9.13%. The AWCMR is recorded at 8.64%, showing a slight uptick from 8.63% in the previous week. Yield rates for treasury bills experienced a modest reduction in both primary and secondary markets, with treasury bonds exhibiting a similar trend with declining yields across all tenors. Sri Lanka's export earnings increased by 6.1% year-on-year, reaching $8.499 billion during the 8 months ending August 2024. Expenditure increased by 10% year-on-year, reaching $12.07 billion. As a result, the deficit in the trade account widened to $3.57 billion during the 8 months ending August 2024, compared to $2.96 billion in the same period of last year. At the Treasury bill auction, which was held today, yields across all tenors fell. The 3-month bill yield declined by 37 basis points, with the 6-month bill yield dropping by 42 basis points and the 12-month bill yield dropping by 4 basis points.
And that's all the news we have for you today. Thank you for joining and have a good night.